My name is Mara Ellis. I'm 35 years old, and I work as a senior fraud analyst for a regional bank in Cincinnati. My job is to find lies trying to pass as paperwork, forged signatures, fake authorizations, chargebacks built around rehearsed stories. Family members who say, "She told me I could use the card," right before a security camera proves she did not. I have spent 12 years learning the difference between a mistake and a pattern. So, when my mother called after 4 years of complete silence and invited me to her retirement dinner, I should have asked one question before agreeing. Whose name was on the reservation? I did not ask. I drove 42 minutes to Larkenstone, walked through the glass doors, and found 20 relatives already seated in a private dining room. I was guest number 21. They had ordered oysters, crab legs, prime rib, truffle mashed potatoes, champagne, and a custom cake that read, "Congratulations, Elaine." My father stood at the head of the table like a judge waiting for the defendant to arrive. My younger brother, Caleb, was filming on his phone. And my mother, the woman who had not spoken to me in 4 years, wrapped her arms around me, brought her mouth close to my ear, and whispered, "Please don't ruin this tonight." That was the first warning. The second came before I even reached the table. A waiter handed me a sealed envelope and said, "The event coordinator asked me to give this to the host." My full legal name was written across the front. Mara Josephine Ellis. Inside was a private dining agreement with an estimated total of $9,860.42. Under "Financially Responsible Party," someone had typed my name. Under "Authorized Signature," someone had tried to sign it. Badly. My family believed a room full of relatives would make me too embarrassed to object. They believed tears could turn fraud into obligation. They believed that contract was the only trap waiting for me. It was not. 15 minutes later, I noticed a black document folder beside Caleb's chair. By dessert, the people who had come to pressure me into paying were demanding to know what he had hidden inside it. And before the night ended, my mother admitted she had written my name herself. If your family has ever confused your competence with permission to use you, stay with me. Because the dinner bill was never the real target. To understand what happened in that room, you need to understand what my family had trained me to become. I grew up in a house where truth was treated like a guest we invited only when convenient. My father, Vernon Ellis, sold insurance and liked to say he understood risk better than anyone. That was funny because he spent most of my childhood creating it. He gambled but called it taking a position. He borrowed money but called it moving things around. He lied but called it not upsetting your mother. My mother, Elaine, rarely raised her voice. That made her more effective. She did not demand things. She sighed near you until you volunteered. She could make a boundary look cruel before she had even asked you to break it. And Caleb, my younger brother by 3 years, was the family miracle. Charming, handsome, careless, allergic to consequences. When Caleb crashed my father's Buick at 17, my parents said boys made mistakes. When he dropped out of college after 1 semester, they said he was too creative for classrooms. When he used my mother's emergency credit card to buy concert tickets and sneakers, they said he was under pressure. When I asked why pressure always made Caleb spend money but made me earn it, my father looked at me and said, "Don't get smart." I got smart anyway. That was my first crime. As the oldest daughter, I learned the family weather before I learned long division. If Dad was unusually quiet at dinner, something was overdue. If Mom cleaned the kitchen at midnight, another creditor had called. If Caleb suddenly became affectionate, he needed someone to cover for him. By 14, I knew which envelopes not to open in front of my mother. By 16, I knew how to stretch a grocery budget better than either of my parents. By 18, I was working 2 jobs and secretly paying the water bill because my mother had whispered to herself, "I don't know how we'll make it to Friday." She did not ask me directly. She did not have to. My family placed its emergencies in the room and waited for me to become responsible for them. The first time I paid a bill, my mother cried and called me her blessing. The second time, she hugged me. The third time, she left the envelope on my dresser without saying a word. That is how love becomes payroll. Slowly. One emergency at a time. When I left for college, I chose accounting because numbers did not cry. Numbers did not say. They did not slam doors. They did not turn a $900 overdraft into a moral test. Numbers told the truth, whether people liked it or not. After graduation, I began working in account review at a bank. People called the work boring. I loved boring. Boring meant records. Timestamps. IP addresses, authorization logs, signatures, patterns. One afternoon, I found a man draining his elderly mother's account in withdrawals of $480. Always on Friday. Always at 2:13 p.m. Always while she was at physical therapy. He had been doing it for 9 months. Everyone else saw ordinary ATM activity. I saw a rhythm. Investigators recovered part of the money. The woman cried when she learned the truth. Not because of the amount. Because her son kissed her cheek every Sunday, while stealing from her every Friday. That case changed me. Fraud was not always a stranger hiding behind a computer. Sometimes fraud had your last name. Sometimes it sat beside you at Thanksgiving and asked you to pass the rolls. I earned one promotion, then another. By 32, I was a senior fraud analyst. I owned a quiet townhouse with a small porch. I had a rescue dog named Pepper, and I had not spoken to my parents or brother in 4 years. That silence began with my grandmother. Josephine Ellis was my father's mother, and the only person in my family who loved me without attaching an invoice. Everyone called her Grandma Jo. She stored cash in coffee tins, grew tomatoes in paint buckets, and believed a child should learn to balance a checkbook before learning to drive. When I was little, she sat me at her kitchen table with a pencil and a pile of grocery receipts. "Find where the money went," she would say. I thought it was a game. It became my career. Grandma Jo noticed everything. She saw my mother leaving bills where I would find them. She saw Caleb borrowing money and forgetting the repayment part. She saw my father calling me our responsible one, whenever he needed me to stop being a person and start being a resource. When I was 28, she pulled me aside after Easter dinner. "Mara," she said, "if people only call you responsible when they want something, that is not a compliment." I laughed because I did not know what else to do. She did not laugh with me. 3 years later, Grandma Jo had a stroke. She recovered enough to return home, but she needed help managing medication, appointments, groceries, and bills. My father immediately said she should move in with my parents. Grandma Jo said, "Absolutely not." My mother suggested Caleb could help if everyone supported him financially. Grandma Jo looked at her. "I said I need help, not a second stroke." So I drove across town 3 evenings a week. I set up automatic payments, organized medication, took her to appointments, fixed her online banking, cooked soup, sat beside her on the porch while she told stories about my grandfather and the Thanksgiving turkey she once threw into the yard because it was still frozen inside. Those evenings were some of the best of my adult life. My family resented them. Not honestly. Honesty would have required courage. They expressed it through comments. "Must be nice to be Grandma's favorite. Some of us have jobs too. She never asks us because you make everyone else look incompetent." Caleb said that last one while eating leftovers I had cooked for her. Grandma Jo died 10 months later. I was holding her hand. Her final clear words to me were, "Don't let them make you pay for being loved." At the time, I thought she was speaking emotionally. I did not know how literal the warning would become. After the funeral, we gathered at my parents' house. Casseroles, paper plates, low voices. People saying she looked peaceful because they did not know what else to say. My father disappeared into his office with Caleb. My mother watched me from across the room. An hour later, Dad called me in. He sat behind his desk. Caleb leaned against a bookcase. My mother stood near the door holding a tissue she was not using. A folder rested on the desk. I recognized it. Grandma Jo's estate folder. I had helped her organize it after the stroke. My father tapped the cover. "Your grandmother made some changes." "To what?" "Her accounts." He did not open the folder. "She named you the payable on death beneficiary of one savings account." I already knew. Grandma Jo had told me 6 months earlier. The balance was approximately $42,000. She said it was for me because I had already paid enough invisible bills for the family. I had told her I did not need it. She replied, "That is exactly why it belongs to you." My father looked at me as if I had stolen something. "That money needs to come back to the family." I said nothing. Caleb pushed away from the bookcase. "Dad needs it for the house. Mom has medical expenses coming. I'm trying to get back on my feet." There it was. The doctrine I had lived under since childhood. "You are doing fine, so whatever you have is available." My mother lowered her voice. "Your grandmother would not want us struggling." That almost worked. Grief makes people vulnerable to lies spoken in the voice of the dead. But I had sat at Grandma Jo's table. I knew what she wanted. "No," I said. My father blinked. "No? I'm not giving you the account. His face hardened. You think you earned it? I think she chose it. Caleb laughed. She chose you because you got into her head. I turned toward him. I took her to cardiology appointments while you were using her debit card to order food. The room froze. Caleb had not known I knew. That was the thing about working in fraud. I noticed charges. Grandma Jo had noticed them too. She simply had not wanted to report her grandson. My father stood. Do not speak to your brother that way today. Then do not ask me to finance him today. My mother gasped as though I had broken something sacred. Maybe I had. Maybe I had broken the rule that Caleb's needs were holy and mine were negotiable. My father pointed toward the door. If you walk out with that money, do not come back. I looked at my mother. She lowered her eyes. I looked at Caleb. He was smirking, but there was fear underneath it. Then I picked up my purse and left. By the next morning, I had been removed from the family group chat. At the end of the week, my mother sent one message. I hope the money keeps you warm. That was the last thing she said to me for 4 years. I did not spend Grandma Jo's money. I put it into a separate savings account and named it Joe. Whenever I felt tempted to call my family and apologize for not allowing them to rob me politely, I opened the account. Not because of the balance. Because it reminded me that someone had seen me. Someone had chosen me without requiring sacrifice first. For 4 years, my family told people I had abandoned them over an inheritance. The truth was simpler. I stopped being the easiest person to steal from. Then my mother called. It was Wednesday morning. I was working from home because Pepper had eaten half a dish towel, and I was trying to determine whether he was about to become a very expensive dog. My phone rang at 9:17. Mum. My first thought was that someone had died. That is what long silence does. When people contact you only after years, your body assumes disaster. I answered on the 4th ring. Mara? Her voice sounded thinner than I remembered. Hi, Mom. She began crying softly. Not loudly. Not dramatically. The kind of crying that invited you to move closer. I know I don't deserve for you to answer, she said. I waited. I'm retiring. That surprised me. My mother had worked as an office manager for a dental practice for 27 years. When? Next Friday. Dr. Ames is selling the practice. Your father and Caleb want to have a small dinner for me. I told them I didn't need anything big. She gave a nervous little laugh. It would mean a lot if you came. There are sentences that arrive carrying knives underneath flowers. It would mean a lot if you came. Not, I am sorry. Not, we were wrong. Not, I miss you. Just a door opened exactly wide enough for guilt to enter. Who will be there? I asked. Close family. How many people? She paused. Maybe 8 or 9. That was the first lie. Not the largest. Just the first. I don't know, I said. I understand. Her voice shook. I would just like my daughter there, that's all. That's all. One of the most dangerous phrases in any family. After the call, I sat on my couch with Pepper's head in my lap and felt the old machinery beginning to move. She sounded sad. Maybe she had changed. Maybe Dad had softened. Maybe Caleb had finally grown up. Then I asked myself a better question. Had 4 years made them more honest? Or had 4 years simply allowed them to need me again? I called my best friend, Annika. Annika was a corporate attorney with the emotional warmth of a locked filing cabinet whenever someone tried to manipulate me. That was exactly why I trusted her. She listened quietly. Then she said, Do not go unless you are prepared to leave within 5 minutes. I can leave. Say it like you believe yourself. I can leave. Drive yourself. Do not drink. Do not bring a checkbook. Do not sign anything. I laughed at the last part. She did not. Mara, do not sign anything. I should have paid attention to how specific the warning sounded. Lark and Stone occupied a restored warehouse downtown. Exposed brick. Velvet booths. Dark wood. Private dining rooms upstairs. Expensive, but manageable if a family planned carefully. My family did not plan carefully. They planned emotionally and expected someone else to pay practically. I wore a navy dress, black heels, and Grandma Jo's small gold watch. I wore the watch whenever I needed to remember that time eventually tells the truth. Before leaving home, I said my boundaries aloud. 1 dinner. No money. No signatures. No private conversation with Caleb. Leave if anything feels wrong. Pepper stared at me from the rug. Excellent contribution, I told him. The drive took 42 minutes. I passed places I knew from childhood. The gas station where my father once made me dispute a $2 overcharge because he said people needed to learn not to be cheated. The pharmacy where my mother bought lipstick before church. The intersection where Caleb crashed the Buick. When I reached the restaurant, I saw the cars. My father's gray Lincoln. Caleb's black Charger. Aunt Denise's minivan. Uncle Rob's truck. Cousin Amber's SUV. Cousin Joel's leased Tesla. Several others I recognized from family gatherings. There were far more than 8 or 9. I parked my own car instead of using the valet. Then I sat behind the steering wheel for a full minute. "Grandma," I whispered. "If this is stupid, forgive me." I went inside. The hostess looked up. "Good evening. Ellis party." She checked the tablet and then looked back at me. "Are you Mara?" "Not Ms. Ellis." "Mara." "Yes." Something shifted in her expression. "They are upstairs in the oak room." "How many guests?" She glanced at the screen. 21 total. 20 have already arrived." My hand tightened around my purse. 20 relatives were waiting upstairs. My mother had said 8 or 9. "Am I listed as the host?" I asked. The hostess hesitated. That answered the question before she spoke. A young waiter came down the stairs carrying empty champagne glasses. He looked at me, then at the hostess. "Are you Miss Mara Ellis?" "Yes." He set the tray down and removed a cream envelope from behind the host's stand. The event coordinator asked me to give this to the host when she arrived. My full name was printed across it. Mara Josephine Ellis. The only people who used my middle name were Grandma Joe, the Department of Motor Vehicles, and people completing official documents. I took the envelope but did not open it immediately. "Where is the event coordinator?" "Upstairs. Her name is Serena." "Thank you." I climbed the stairs slowly. Moving slowly prevents people from realizing how quickly your mind is working. At the top, I heard laughter. Glasses. My father's voice. Caleb telling a story that made several people cheer. Then I opened the envelope. Inside was the private dining agreement. Lark and Stone. Oak Room. Guest count, 21. Guaranteed food and beverage minimum. $7,500. Estimated total with service charge and tax. $9,860.42. Deposit paid. $1,200. Remaining balance due after the event. Financially responsible party. Mara Josephine Ellis. Authorized signature. M. J. Ellis. I stared at the signature. Whoever had written it knew the shape of my name but not the movement of my hand. The M was too rounded. The J looped in the wrong direction. The final S curled upward. I recognized the handwriting. My mother's. For several seconds, that hurt more than the money. I expected manipulation from Caleb. I expected pressure from my father. But my mother had called me crying about wanting her daughter present, then signed that daughter into nearly $10,000 of liability. The contract did not contain my card number. It did not need one. If the card used for the deposit failed, the restaurant could invoice the person listed as financially responsible and pursue collection under the agreement. Someone had created paperwork designed to make the restaurant believe I had accepted the debt. I folded the contract and returned it to the envelope. Then I entered the oak room. 20 faces turned toward me. The room was beautiful in the way expensive rooms are beautiful when someone else is expected to pay. White roses. Gold chargers. Champagne buckets. A seafood display. A carving station. A cake shaped like stacked gift boxes. Across the back wall hung a banner. "Happy Retirement, Elaine." My mother stood near the center of the table in a pale blue dress. Her eyes were already wet. My father stood at the head, wearing the expression of a man who believed the room itself proved he was right. Caleb sat beside him, holding up his phone. Recording. Of course. "Mara," my mother breathed. She crossed the room and hugged me tightly. Her mouth came close to my ear. "Please don't ruin this tonight." Not. "I missed you." Not. "Thank you for coming. Please don't ruin this." I pulled back. What would ruin it? For 1 second, panic showed on her face. Then she turned toward the room and widened her smile. "My daughter came," she announced. "My baby came." People applauded. I had never realized applause could sound like a trap closing. Aunt Denise wiped her eyes. Uncle Rob raised a glass. Cousin Joel said, "There she is." The banker. I worked in fraud analysis. To them, I was simply the banker. The person near money. The person who understood accounts. The person who could move things around. Caleb lowered his phone enough to smirk. Long time, sis. Caleb. You look expensive. You look unemployed. A few relatives made uncomfortable sounds. My mother squeezed my arm. My father stepped forward. Enough. Tonight is about your mother. I held up the envelope. Then why is my name on the contract? Most of the room did not understand the question. My parents and Caleb did. Fear crossed my mother's face. Mara, she whispered. Not now. Those words were the Ellis family motto. Not now. Not here. Not in front of people. Not while the truth would inconvenience the lie. My father's voice hardened. We will discuss it later. No, I said. We won't. The room became quiet. I was handed a contract with my forged signature before I even entered. This time, everyone understood. Caleb laughed too quickly. Forged? A little dramatic, aren't we? I turned the envelope in my hand. Would you like me to pass it around? My mother's eyes filled again. Mara, please. There was that word. Please. The word they used when they wanted me to absorb the consequences of their decisions. Aunt Denise frowned. What contract? My father snapped her name. Denise. Her confusion appeared genuine. That mattered. Not everyone in the room knew about the setup. I looked at my father. Then at Caleb. Then at my mother. I'll sit down, I said, for now. My father's shoulders loosened. He believed he had delayed the problem. People like my father often mistake calm for surrender. I took the only empty seat. It was directly across from Caleb and nowhere near the exit. A waiter poured champagne. No, thank you, I said. Caleb grinned. Come on. Mom only retires once. I'll have sparkling water. Still fun, I see. Still solvent. His smile thinned. The waiter introduced himself as Evan. He looked about 22 and was trying not to absorb the tension through his skin. He returned with sparkling water and lime. Thank you, Evan. He seemed surprised that I used his name. At the table, my relatives began performing the old family script. Aunt Denise asked whether I was still doing bank things. Uncle Rob said it must be nice to work around money all day. Cousin Joel began describing a cryptocurrency opportunity. Caleb said, Mara doesn't do opportunities. She does judgment. My mother gave a careful smile. Your sister has always been cautious. Cautious was what they called me when they wanted my caution to protect them. Cold was what they called me when I used it to protect myself. My father raised his glass. To Elaine, a woman who gave everything to her family. Everyone drank. My mother lowered her eyes modestly. I wondered when everything had included honesty. About 20 minutes into dinner, Caleb leaned across the table. So, Mara, are you still sitting on Grandma's money? My fork stopped. My mother whispered his name. What? He said. We're all family. I looked at him. Interesting time to remember that. His smile sharpened. Some people were left with memories. Some people got cash. Aunt Denise looked between us. What cash? My father shot Caleb a warning look. Too late, I answered. Grandma named me beneficiary of one savings account because I managed her care. Aunt Denise blinked. She did? Yes. She told me she was doing something for you. Denise looked down at her napkin. I didn't know Vernon was angry about it. My father's face darkened. We are not discussing my mother's estate tonight. Caleb leaned back. How convenient. I studied him. He looked resentful, but also confident. Too confident for a man merely complaining about an old inheritance. That was when I noticed the black folder beside his chair. It was not part of the restaurant setting. It was a cheap document folder from an office supply store. Caleb saw me looking at it. His hand moved to cover it. Too casually. The dinner contract was not the only lie in the room. I excused myself. Outside the oak room, a woman with short silver hair stood near a console table holding a tablet. Serena? She turned. Miss Ellis? I need a copy of the contract, and every document attached to it. She nodded immediately. I thought you might. Why? She hesitated. Then, conscience overtook professionalism. When your mother delivered the signed agreement, she said you were a fraud specialist and extremely particular. She told us not to contact you directly because it might upset you before the celebration. I nearly laughed. My profession had been used as the reason nobody should verify my signature. Serena handed me a copy of the contract. There is also an addendum. The second page was titled, Balance, Responsibility and Collection Authorization. It stated that if the deposit card failed to cover the final bill, the restaurant could invoice the financially responsible party named in the agreement and pursue normal collection remedies. My name. My forged signature. Again. They had not gained direct access to one of my bank cards. They had created a document trail designed to make a business chase me for their debt. If I refused publicly, the paperwork would still follow me afterward. Who paid the deposit? I asked. Serena checked the file. Elaine Ellis. $1,200 on a card ending in 4,418. My mother. Did anyone provide identification for me? No. Your mother provided her own identification and said she was delivering the agreement on your behalf. Did anyone call me? We were told not to. I photographed both pages. This signature is forged. I did not authorize the event or accept financial responsibility. I understand. I want my personal consumption separated, sparkling water only. Add a 30% tip for Evan. Serena nodded. And please preserve the original documents and any emails or camera footage connected to the booking. Her expression sharpened. You're considering a police report. I'm considering my options. I'll preserve everything. I went into the restroom and locked myself inside a stall. Panic is useless in fraud work. Documentation is everything. I photographed the agreement, the addendum, the total, and the forged signatures. Then I opened my banking applications. No pending charges. No new credit inquiries. No unfamiliar accounts. Good. When I stepped out, my mother was standing near the sinks. Her lipstick had been reapplied. Her hands were shaking. Mara, did you sign my name? Her face folded. I didn't have a choice. Some sentences confess before the explanation begins. You didn't have a choice? Your father was under so much pressure. Caleb said you would come if the reservation was in your name. He said you would never let anything happen to me at my retirement dinner. Caleb said that. She seemed relieved to place some of the blame elsewhere. Yes, he thought. You wrote it. Her mouth closed. You signed my name to a financial contract. Tears filled her eyes. You don't understand what things have been like. I understand what fraud looks like. The word struck her. Do not call it that. What would you call signing another person's name to a contract? She looked at me as if the answer should have been obvious. Family. Something inside me became perfectly still. My mother did not see a meaningful difference. To her, family meant access. To my money, my name, my credit, my silence. You need to tell Serena the truth before I decide what happens next. She shook her head. Please. Just get through dinner. Your father is ashamed. Caleb has a plan. We can fix everything afterward. What plan? Her eyes moved toward the door. What plan, Mom? Mara. Not here. Then where? At a police station? The color left her face. I walked away. When I returned to the table, the room had become louder. The kind of loud people create when they are trying to ignore something unstable beneath them. Caleb was describing a new business venture. I sat down. He smiled. Thought you might have left. Not yet. His eyes moved to my mother as she entered behind me. I looked at the black folder. He shifted his foot in front of it. I looked back at him. He knew I had noticed. Dinner continued. Prime rib. Champagne. Forced laughter. My father ordered an additional seafood platter. Caleb requested another bottle of champagne and told the waiter to bring the good one. Those extras would raise the final bill above the estimate in the contract. Nobody asked who would pay. They thought they already knew. I began asking questions. What is your new venture, Caleb? His posture changed. He loved an audience. Real estate acquisition. Meaning? Distressed properties, bridge financing, large returns. My father nodded proudly. Your brother is finally building something. Is he? Caleb leaned forward. I have investors. Do they know they're investors? His smile disappeared. What is that supposed to mean? It means authorization matters. He gave a short laugh. Still doing the bank cop routine? Still noticing patterns? Aunt Denise spoke from farther down the table. What properties? Caleb looked irritated. Local opportunities. My father cut in. Not dinner conversation. I turned toward Denise. Did Caleb ask you for money? Her cheeks flushed. He mentioned a bridge loan. Uncle Rob stared at her. You gave him money? Invested. How much? She looked at Caleb. $25,000. The room erupted. Cousin Amber whispered. Mom. Uncle Rob pushed back from the table. Caleb raised both hands. It's secured. By what? I asked. He glared at me. Private documents. The black folder. There it was. I looked at Aunt Denise. Have you seen the security documents? She hesitated. Caleb showed me a summary. Did you verify it independently? My father stood halfway. Mara. Stop. Denise looked at him. No, I want to hear this. For the first time that night, someone else wanted the truth more than comfort. Caleb's expression changed. You people want returns but don't understand business. Show her the documents, I said. No. I stood. My father's voice boomed across the room. Sit down. I did not. I walked around the table until I was several feet from Caleb. He grabbed the folder. Touch my property and see what happens. I stopped. Then I turned towards Serena, who had appeared near the doorway. Could you ask building security to come upstairs? Caleb's face changed. Mara. I looked directly at him. If that folder contains any document using my name, signature, social security information, account records, or my grandmother's estate information, place it on the table voluntarily. The room went cold. My mother made a small sound. My father closed his eyes. That told me enough. Caleb looked at him. You said she wouldn't do this. The sentence split the room open. Not. I did nothing wrong. Not. What is she talking about? You said she wouldn't do this. Aunt Denise stared at my father. Vernon? He rubbed a hand across his face. I looked at him. What is in the folder? Nobody answered. So I reconstructed the pattern. Grandma left money to me. You couldn't access it, so you spent 4 years telling everyone I stole it. Dad's finances got worse. Caleb began asking relatives for investment money. Tonight, you brought me into a room full of people, placed the dinner contract in my name, and planned to pressure me publicly. Caleb's jaw tightened. I continued. But the bill was not the real goal. It was a test. If I accepted the dinner debt to avoid embarrassing Mom, you would show me whatever is inside that folder and ask me to sign something larger. My mother cried silently. My father said nothing. Aunt Denise stood. Open it. Caleb shook his head. Uncle Rob stood beside her. Open the folder. Caleb looked around the table. The audience had changed sides. He threw the folder onto the table. Documents slid across the white tablecloth. I did not touch them. I let Aunt Denise pick up the first page. Her hands began to shake. Then she looked at me. Mara, what is it? She turned the document around. The title read, Josephine Ellis. Family, Restoration, Trust, Preliminary Transfer Authorization. Grandma Jo had never created such a trust. The document stated that I, Mara Josephine Ellis, agreed to transfer the funds I received from Josephine Ellis into a family-managed investment vehicle controlled by Caleb Ellis. The stated purpose was restoration of shared family assets and investment opportunities. My signature line was blank. For now. The folder also contained a copy of Grandma Jo's old account summary, a photocopy of one of my previous bank statements, and a page listing my personal information, full legal name, date of birth, previous address, the final 4 digits of my social security number. My body became quiet. Not calm, quiet. Like a room after the air has been removed. I looked at Caleb. You brought a fake trust document to Mom's retirement dinner. He pointed at me. You took money that belonged to the family. No. Grandma left money to me. She was manipulated. By the person who drove her to medical appointments? Or by the person who used her debit card to order dinner? His face turned red. My father slammed his hand on the table. That is enough. I turned toward him. You knew about this. You think you were the only one who loved my mother? No. I think I'm the only person here not trying to collect from her twice. The words landed hard. Caleb stood. You think you're better than everyone because you work at a bank and follow rules. Family is not about rules. Family is about sacrifice. I looked at the forged dinner contract, the fake trust, my personal information, the relatives he had recruited as investors. No, Caleb. What you're describing is theft, wearing a family name tag. Aunt Denise lowered herself into her chair. I gave you $25,000 because you said Mara had already agreed to transfer the money. Caleb froze. Uncle Rob looked at him. You told us the trust would be funded after this dinner. Cousin Amber gasped. My father turned on Caleb. You told them that? His anger was not moral. It was embarrassed. Caleb shouted. We needed leverage. There it was. The honest word. Not healing. Not reconciliation. Leverage. My mother whispered his name, but the lie was already moving faster than anyone could contain it. Serena stepped forward. Miss Ellis, would you like me to contact the police? Every face turned toward me. My mother looked terrified. My father's anger collapsed into fear. Caleb opened his mouth but said nothing. For 1 second, I controlled the entire room. I could have said yes immediately. Perhaps another person would have. But I wanted the evidence preserved before anyone began rewriting the story. Not yet, I said. My mother exhaled. I raised one finger. That does not mean never. Then I turned to Serena. Please copy every document in that folder. Preserve the originals until law enforcement or counsel requests them. Include the restaurant agreement, the addendum, the booking emails, and tonight's final invoice. Yes, ma'am. Caleb reached for the folder. 2 security officers entered before he touched it. He stopped. I looked at my father. The dinner contract is not mine. The signature is not mine. The trust is not real. Whatever Caleb promised anyone using my grandmother's money is not my responsibility. Aunt Denise began crying, quietly, for herself. She understood that she had been used too. My father stared at me with hatred so old it almost resembled grief. You would destroy your own brother. No. I'm refusing to be destroyed for him. Caleb laughed bitterly. Always the victim. I met his eyes. I'm not the victim in this room, Caleb. I'm the evidence. That silenced him. The soft jazz from the speakers suddenly seemed too loud. Then my mother stood. She looked at me. I signed your name. My father turned toward her. Elaine. She shook her head. No, I did it. Her voice trembled. Caleb brought the contract, Vernon said. Putting it in Mara's name would guarantee she came. They said once she saw everyone together, she would understand that the family needed help. She looked at the fake trust papers. But I did not know about that document. Caleb's expression twisted. Mom. I didn't, she said. I believed that part. Not because she had earned trust. Because the shock on her face when the folder opened had been too immediate to manufacture. My mother had forged my signature to trap me with the dinner. Caleb had planned to use the dinner to obtain a second signature and take the inheritance. My father had helped create the room where both things could happen. One lie had opened the door. None of them had been able to control what entered afterward. Serena returned with a large evidence envelope and handed it to me. Your individual tab has been settled, she said. 1 sparkling water and the gratuity you requested. Thank you. Then she faced my parents. The event's final balance is $10,947.68, including the additional seafood platter and champagne. The forged agreement has been removed from Miss Ellis's account. Payment is now due from the booking party. The room remembered the bill. My father pulled out a credit card. Declined. He tried another. Declined. Caleb offered his. Also declined. My mother's remaining card had too little available credit. Aunt Denise refused to contribute another cent until Caleb signed an acknowledgement of the money he owed her. Uncle Rob demanded the same. Cousin Joel suddenly remembered an early appointment. Security reminded everyone that leaving without resolving the bill could turn a family dispute into another legal problem. The room that had been designed to corner me collapsed inward. People argued about who ordered the champagne. Aunt Denise announced she did not even like oysters. Uncle Rob said Caleb had promised the family investment fund would pay for the dinner. My father told him to be quiet. My mother sat staring at the retirement cake. Congratulations, Elaine. I wondered what she believed she had won. Eventually, the restaurant placed the balance on Elaine and Vernon's account as the actual booking parties. Several relatives agreed to contribute enough to avoid an immediate police response from the restaurant. It took 4 cards, 2 bank transfers, and nearly 40 minutes. Caleb paid nothing. Not because anyone protected him. Because he had nothing. That may have embarrassed him more than paying would have. I stood near the door with the evidence envelope beneath my arm, and Grandma Joe's watch on my wrist. The worst thing had happened. And I was still standing. My mother approached while people collected their coats. Mara. I waited. I'm sorry. The words were correct. They were not complete. For what? She blinked. For tonight. What part of tonight? Her lips trembled. For signing your name. And? For lying about how many people would be here. And? She looked at the evidence envelope. For believing you would fix everything if we put you in the room. That was closer. And? She shook her head. I don't know. I nodded. That is the problem. She reached for me. I stepped back. Only one step. Enough. I loved you, she whispered. I know, I said. But you loved me like a resource. I needed you to love me like a daughter. Her face collapsed. Behind her, my father watched. He did not approach. Caleb was arguing with security about the folder. Aunt Denise was crying against Uncle Rob's shoulder. Evan passed carrying slices of untouched cake packed into plastic boxes. My mother's retirement dinner had ended as takeout betrayal. I turned toward the stairs. My father finally spoke. If you walk out now, Mara, do not come back. The same threat. The same door. The same script he had used after Grandma Joe's funeral. Only now, I was not 29 and grieving. I was 35 and carrying copies. I turned around. Dad, I did not come back tonight. I came to see whether there was anything worth coming back to. His face hardened. And? I looked around the room. At the forged contract. The fake trust. The unpaid bill. My mother. My brother. The relatives discovering how expensive their silence had become. No, I said. There isn't. Then I left. Outside, the air felt cold and clean. I sat in my car with the evidence envelope on the passenger seat. For a minute, I could not move. My phone buzzed. Anika. One word. Well? I photographed the envelope and sent it. She called immediately. What happened? I laughed. Then I cried. Then I told her enough. She listened, without interrupting. When I finished, she asked, do you want to file a police report? I looked through the restaurant windows. Caleb was gesturing at Serena. My father stood behind him, looking smaller than I remembered. My mother sat alone near the coat rack. Yes, I said. But tomorrow. Good. Go home. Sleep. Tomorrow we make a plan. Tomorrow we make a plan. Not. What did you do to provoke them? Not. But they are family. A plan. That is what love sounds like, when it respects you. The following morning, I brought the documents to Anika's office. We spread them across a conference table. The forged dining agreement. The collection addendum. The false trust authorization. Grandma Joe's account summary. The page containing my personal information. Anika read everything twice. Then she removed her glasses. Your brother is an idiot. I know. Your mother forged a financial agreement. I know. Your father appears to have helped arrange it. I know. And you are going to stop minimizing this because they cried. I looked at her. She softened. Mara, they did not make a mistake at dinner. They built a system around your silence. That sentence became the center of the next year of my life. They built a system around your silence. So I dismantled it. Carefully. Legally. Completely. I filed a police report. Lark and Stone gave investigators the original agreement, booking emails, security footage, and a recording of my mother delivering the contract. I froze my credit, placed fraud alerts, changed passwords, reviewed every account and report connected to my identity. I notified my bank's internal security team. Then I contacted Grandma Joe's estate attorney. His name was Harold Feld. He was 81 years old and had the posture of a man who had been disappointed by families for several decades. When I placed the fake trust document on his desk, he sighed. Josephine was afraid they might try something. My throat tightened. She was? Not this exact thing, but she expected pressure. He opened a file and removed an envelope. My name was written on the front in Grandma Joe's handwriting. Mara. Not Mara Josephine. Not Ms. Ellis. Just Mara. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was one page. My dear Mara. If you are reading this, someone has tried to make you feel guilty for what I chose freely. Let me be plain. The money I left you was not a mistake. It was not family money. It was not your father's money. It was not Caleb's second chance. It was mine, and I gave it to you because you showed up when showing up was not profitable. Do not let them rename theft as need. Do not let them rename pressure as love. And do not pay the bill for people who spent years teaching you that your only value was rescue. You were never hard to love. They were simply expensive to please. With all my love, Grandma Joe. I read the letter once. Then again. Then I covered my face and cried in an attorney's office, while an elderly man pushed a box of tissues toward me and pretended to examine another document. That letter saved a part of me I had not realized was still waiting to be rescued. The legal process moved slowly. Caleb was investigated for attempted fraud, identity misuse, and the false investment documents. Two other relatives admitted they had given him money after being told my inheritance would fund his family restoration plan. He eventually accepted a plea agreement. He was ordered to repay the investors, serve probation, and surrender the documents and electronic files connected to the scheme. Aunt Denise and Uncle Rob also obtained civil judgments against him. My mother admitted in writing that she had forged my signature on the restaurant agreement. Because she had no prior record, cooperated with investigators, and had not created the fake trust, she was offered a diversion agreement. It required restitution, community service, financial abuse counseling, and no direct contact with me for 1 year unless I initiated it. I did not. My father was not charged with signing the documents, but text messages showed he knew the reservation had been placed in my name and expected public pressure to make me cooperate. He continued, insisting he had only wanted to reunite the family. I stopped arguing with him. A person committed to misunderstanding you does not become honest because you explain yourself more clearly. For several months, my family fractured in slow motion. Caleb called from blocked numbers. First he shouted, then he begged. Then he said Grandma Jo would be ashamed of me. After that call, I read her letter and changed my number. My father sent one email. You have destroyed this family. I replied with one sentence. No, Dad, I documented what was already happening. He never answered. My mother did something different. 6 months into the no-contact period, she sent a letter through her attorney. I did not have to read it. I chose to. She wrote, I used your name because I believed your name still belonged to us. I am ashamed of that sentence, but it is true. I do not know how to be your mother without needing something from you. I am trying to learn. I did not forgive her after reading it. But I believed that sentence more than any tears she had shed at the restaurant. I do not know how to be your mother without needing something from you. It was the first honest map she had ever given me. When the 1-year contact restriction ended, she did not come to my house. She did not call repeatedly. She sent one short note through Anika. If you are ever willing to meet in public, I will follow whatever rules you set. I waited 2 months. Then I agreed to coffee. 1 hour. Public place. No discussion of money. No defending Caleb. No blaming my father. No requests for forgiveness. She followed every rule. At the end, she said, I know, respecting one boundary does not repair what I did. It was the first apology she gave me that did not ask me to comfort her afterward. We met again 3 months later. Then once more. Trust did not return. A small amount of predictability began to exist. That was enough for the time being. People want stories like this to end with a perfect family reunion. They want the mother to apologize beautifully, the father to repent, the brother to become humble, everyone to sit around a smaller table and love correctly. Real life is not always that generous. Sometimes it offers something better: distance, clarity, choice. A year after the retirement dinner, I adopted a second rescue dog, because Pepper apparently needed a partner in property destruction. I was promoted again. I began teaching fraud prevention seminars for older women, focusing on financial abuse committed by relatives. The first time I said the phrase, family financial abuse, into a microphone, my voice shook. The second time, it did not. After one seminar, an older woman approached me. My son has my debit card, she whispered. I helped her make a plan. That felt like giving Grandma Jo flowers. Anika and I also began hosting a monthly dinner for women who had left complicated families. We called it separate checks. The rules were simple. Everyone paid for herself. Everyone told the truth. Nobody minimized. Those dinners became my new holiday tradition. Then, because life sometimes offers softness after it has finished breaking your patterns, I met Daniel. Not at a gala. Not in a dramatic courtroom hallway. At a dog park. Pepper stole his sandwich. Daniel forgave him immediately, which I considered suspicious. He was a high school history teacher with kind eyes and the rare ability to listen without waiting for his turn to sound impressive. On our third date, the check arrived. I reached for my wallet automatically. Daniel said, we can split it, or I can pay this time and you can get the next one. But no strange power games. I stared at him. He smiled. What? Nothing, I said. That may be the most romantic sentence anyone has ever said to me. He laughed. So did I. Gentleness feels strange when you are used to earning every soft thing. It takes practice to receive kindness without searching for the hidden invoice. 2 years after Lark and Stone, I hosted Thanksgiving. Not for the family I came from. For the family I had built. Anika came. Daniel came. Several friends from work came. Mr. Feld, Grandma Joe's attorney, brought terrible cranberry sauce and excellent stories. Aunt Denise came after apologizing for believing Caleb without asking me to make her feel better. My mother came for dessert only. That was the boundary. Dessert only, 2 hours. No money conversations. No discussion of Caleb's case. No surprise guests. She followed every rule. When she arrived, she carried Grandma Joe's old recipe box. I found this in storage, she said. It belongs with you. No long speech. No tears. No bill hidden underneath. Just the box. I took it. Thank you. She looked around the dining room. Mismatched chairs. Separate dishes. Dogs asleep beneath the table. People laughing without performing. This is nice, she said. It is. She looked at me for a long moment. You seem peaceful. I thought about the word. Then I said, I am. And I was. Not because everything had been repaired. Because I had stopped confusing repair with return. Some things do not need to be put back together. Some things must remain broken so you can stop cutting your hands on them. After everyone left, Daniel and I washed dishes side by side. Pepper and June snored in the living room. Grandma Joe's recipe box sat on the counter. Inside, behind an old cornbread recipe, I found another note in her handwriting. It was very short. Mara, if they make you choose between peace and yourself, choose yourself. Real peace will follow. She was right. My family invited me to a retirement dinner to trap me with a forged contract. They planned to use my name, my credit, my inheritance, and my silence. They thought 20 relatives could turn fraud into obligation. They thought tears could make theft look like need. They thought I was still the girl who paid the water bill because nobody had asked directly. They were wrong. The most dangerous lie in a family is not always, I hate you. Sometimes it is, you owe us. You owe us because we raised you. Because you succeeded. Because your brother failed. Because your mother cried. Because your grandmother loved you. But blood is not a blank check. And being the responsible one does not make you responsible for everyone. Justice did not arrive that night with sirens. It arrived as a copied contract. A declined card. A fake trust document opened beneath restaurant lights. A grandmother's letter waiting inside an attorney's file. And one woman finally saying no loudly enough for the lie to stop calling itself love. If you are the person they call when the bill arrives but forget when the cake is cut, hear me clearly. You are not selfish for protecting your name. You are not cruel for protecting your credit. You can love people and still lock the account. You can miss them and still leave the room. You can grieve the family you wanted without financing the family that hurt you. Tell me in the comments which boundary finally gave you your peace back. And subscribe to Calm Deception Stories for more stories about family betrayal, quiet strength, and the moment truth finally takes its seat at the table. I'll see you in the next story.